1. Appearance insecurity. You stop letting people take photos of you. You retake selfies 8 times before posting. You cancel plans because your hair won't sit right. From the outside, it looks vain. It's actually the opposite. It's terror dressed up as vanity. Appearance insecurity comes from believing that being seen ugly equals being seen worthless. So you over-control how you look at every moment because letting people see the real version feels dangerous. It shapes you in 3 ways. You become hyper-aware, constantly checking mirrors, windows, phone screens. You start chasing validation. The compliment isn't enjoyable, it's required. Without it, you spiral. And you become a perfectionist, not because perfection is the goal, because anything less feels exposed. The cruel part is how visible all this is to other people. Everyone notices the constant adjusting, the photo dodging, the obvious discomfort. The thing you're hiding stops being your appearance and becomes how badly you're hiding it. The fix isn't a skincare routine. It's letting yourself be seen unedited and surviving the moment. 2. Intelligence insecurity. You stay quiet in the meeting. You had a real idea. You said nothing. You spent the next 2 hours imagining versions of yourself who said it well and got credit. Intelligence insecurity is the fear of being publicly exposed as not smart enough. It usually starts in school. Wrong answer once. Laughed at, the brain remembers it forever and decides silence is safer than risk. It shapes you in 3 ways. You become an overthinker. Every sentence gets edited 5 times in your head before it reaches your mouth, by which point the conversation already moved on. You become defensive. Anyone questioning you triggers an outsized reaction because every challenge feels like the original embarrassment all over again. Or you go the other direction. You overcompensate. The loudest person in the room. Big words. Name-dropping books you only half read. Fake confidence is just intelligence insecurity in a costume. The truth nobody likes hearing. The smartest people in the room are usually the quietest. But for the opposite reason. They're listening, not hiding. 3. Social insecurity. You're lying in bed at 1 a.m. replaying the dumb thing you said at lunch. The other person almost certainly forgot it 10 minutes after it happened. You'll remember it for 6 years. Social insecurity is the chronic fear of being perceived badly by people you barely know. The reason it feels so big is that your brain treats social rejection like physical danger. Same threat response. Same cortisol spike. It shapes you into 3 default patterns. People-pleasing. You agree with things you don't actually agree with, laugh at jokes that aren't funny, and say yes to plans you don't want, just to lower the threat level. Masking. You become a different version of yourself in every room, whichever version you think the room wants. And eventually, social avoidance, because if every interaction costs this much energy, fewer interactions feels like the answer, until you realize the avoidance made it worse. The practical truth. Nobody is thinking about you nearly as much as you think they are. They're at home replaying their own dumb sentence. 4. Financial insecurity. Your bills are paid, rent is fine, there's money in checking, and still your stomach drops every time you open your banking app. That's financial insecurity. And it usually has very little to do with how much money you actually have. It's built in childhood. It comes from watching parents argue about money, hearing we can't afford that too often, or learning that one bad month meant chaos. Your nervous system codes money as a survival threat for life. It shapes you into a scarcity mindset. Even when you have enough, your brain refuses to believe it. It hoards, it catastrophizes, it runs worst-case math in the background constantly. It also turns into control issues. You micromanage every dollar. You panic over a $12 charge while ignoring the bigger picture. You can't actually enjoy spending money on anything, even when you can clearly afford it. The wealthy version of this person looks like a saver. They're not. They're scared. No number in the account ever feels like enough to relax. 5. Career insecurity. You take one day off, you don't work, you don't produce anything. By 4 p.m., you feel like a failure. That's not laziness avoidance. That's career insecurity. And it follows you into every weekend, every vacation, every relationship. Career insecurity is when your sense of self-worth is welded to your output. Stop producing for 24 hours and you stop existing. Your value in your own head only renews when something measurable gets done. It shapes you in 3 predictable ways. Workaholism, You can't stop, not because you love the work, but because not working feels worse than burnout. Comparison. You measure yourself against coworkers, classmates, strangers on LinkedIn. Their wins make you feel behind, their failures make you feel temporarily okay. And the big one, identity collapse around achievement. If a project fails, you don't think the project failed. You think you failed. Because there's no separation between who you are and what you produced last quarter. The trap is that career insecurity makes you better at your job, which makes you keep doing it, which keeps you stuck. 6. Status insecurity. A friend buys a house, posts the photo, you smile, you like it, and quietly, in the back of your head, something starts comparing where you are to where they are. That's status insecurity. And it runs the engine behind half of social media. Status insecurity isn't about wanting more stuff, it's about needing to feel like you're winning relative to the people around you, even when your life is objectively fine. It shapes you into a constant scoreboard checker. Their car, their job title, their vacation photos. Every input gets sorted into ahead or behind. It pushes you into flex culture. You start posting too. Not because you're proud, because you need other people to know you're keeping up. And it kills your ability to enjoy your own life. You can win the actual race and still feel like you're losing because the scoreboard never stops adding new people to compare to. The real fix is unfollowing, not the people, the scoreboard. Status insecurity dies the second you stop checking the score. 7. Relationship insecurity. You ask your partner if they still love you. They say yes. 6 hours later, you ask again. That's relationship insecurity. And the people who have it the worst usually have partners who actually do love them. Relationship insecurity is the inability to feel safe even inside a stable relationship. Reassurance only works for a few hours before the doubt grows back, like trying to fill a bucket with a hole in the bottom. It shapes you into 3 patterns. Clinginess, you text too much, you panic when they don't respond fast enough. You make small spaces feel suffocating, testing behavior. You start fights to see if they'll fight to keep you. You go silent to see if they chase. You manufacture little crises just to confirm the relationship is real. And emotional volatility. One ambiguous text from your partner ruins your entire day. The relationship runs on a hair trigger. The cruel part, the behavior caused by the fear of being left often becomes the exact reason the person eventually leaves. 8. Abandonment insecurity. A text doesn't get answered for 2 hours. They were probably just driving. You've already constructed a complete story where they decided to leave you, found someone else, and rehearsed how they'll break it off. Abandonment insecurity usually traces back to one specific event in childhood. A parent who left, a parent who was emotionally absent, a friend group that froze you out. The brain learned that close attachments are unsafe and built an alarm system to detect the next loss before it happens. It shapes you into overattachment. You attach to people fast and hard, then panic about losing them. Jealousy, not just romantic, jealousy of anyone who might steal the closeness you have. Friends, coworkers, their family, and fear-driven control. You start trying to manage the other person's behavior because you can't manage your own anxiety. Where they go, who they talk to, how fast they reply. The cure isn't a more reassuring partner. It's noticing the alarm system is reading old data. Nobody is leaving. Your brain is just remembering when someone did. 9. Sexual insecurity. You're in the moment and you're not in the moment. You're outside it, watching yourself, evaluating every angle, wondering if you look bad, wondering if you're performing right, wondering if you're enough. Sexual insecurity is the fear that the most exposed version of you isn't going to measure up. Body, performance, stamina, whatever the metric, your brain has decided you're failing it. It shapes people in 3 ways. Avoidance. You stop initiating, you make excuses. You pull away because the safest sex is none at all. Overcompensation. The opposite reaction, you go too hard, too far, too fast, performing a version of intimacy that's really just managing your own anxiety in real time. Or approval addiction. You need verbal confirmation constantly. Did you like it? Was it good? Are you sure? The reassurance helps for about 10 minutes, then the doubt comes back. The hard truth: most partners care about presence way more than performance. The thing your insecurity is hiding from is rarely the thing your partner is even noticing. 10. Aging insecurity. You catch yourself in a photo, you see something new, a line, some gray, a jawline that's a little less defined. And in that 1 second, your brain registers a small panic you can't quite name. Aging insecurity is the slow background terror that your value is on a timer. It usually starts in your late 20s, well before there's anything visible to worry about. The fear shows up long before the actual aging. It shapes people in three predictable ways. Denial: you lie about your age, dress younger, perform youth in ways that look more obvious than the lines you're trying to hide. Image obsession: skincare, procedures, filters. Photoshop: your relationship with your own face becomes a maintenance schedule. An urgency panic: the I have to do everything before 30. Before 40, before 50. Major life decisions get rushed because you're racing a clock that started ticking in your head. The truth most people learn too late. The face changes. The fear was always the real problem. 11. Confidence insecurity. You don't start the project, you don't apply for the job. You don't send the message, not because you don't want to. Because if you try and fail, the failure is real proof. If you don't try, you can keep believing you might have been great. Competence insecurity is the deep fear of finding out definitively that you're not as capable as you secretly hoped. Not trying protects the fantasy. It shapes you in three ways. Perfectionism: you don't ship anything because nothing is ever ready enough. Imposter syndrome: even when you do succeed, you don't believe it counts. You assume you got lucky. You assume people will figure out you don't actually know what you're doing. And self-sabotage: you undermine your own efforts at the last minute. Miss the deadline. Pick a fight before the interview. Anything that gives you a reason for the failure that isn't your actual ability. The hard pivot is realizing that finding out you're average at something is not as bad as never knowing. 12. Belonging insecurity. You act one way around your work friends, a different way around your family, a third way around your college group. None of them are lying versions of you, but none of them are quite the full thing either. Belonging insecurity is the fear that the real you wouldn't be accepted by any single group, so you become a slightly different person in each one. It feels like adaptation. It's actually fragmentation. It shapes you into chronic inauthenticity. Over time, you start losing track of which opinions are actually yours and which ones you adopted to fit in. Music taste, political views, sense of humor, all of it gets shaped by the room. Identity gets fractured. Different friend groups know different versions of you. Mixing them feels almost dangerous, like the truth might leak about which version is fake. The cost is loneliness in the middle of a crowd. You can be surrounded by people who like you and still feel deeply alone because none of them know all of you, and by now, neither do you. 13. Moral insecurity. You hear about something terrible online, you post about it, you comment, you make sure everyone in your network knows where you stand. The actual cause might matter to you, but there's a quieter motive. Underneath, you need other people to confirm you're a good person, because deep down, you're not sure. Moral insecurity is the fear that you might secretly be a bad person, so you build a public performance of being a good one. The louder the performance, the louder the doubt underneath. It shapes you into virtue signaling. You publicly judge others harshly because every public condemnation of someone else is privately reassuring yourself. Rigidity. You become unable to accept any moral gray area because gray area means your own behavior could be questioned too. And hidden shame. The harder you perform virtue out loud, the more privately ashamed you become of your actual behavior, which only makes the public performance louder. The honest truth: genuinely good people don't need to constantly remind you they're good. They just are. 14. Control insecurity. The plan changes last minute. Someone is 20 minutes late, the meeting moves, the flight gets delayed. And inside, something disproportionate happens. You're not just annoyed. You're stressed in a way that doesn't match the situation. Control insecurity is the inability to feel safe when things aren't predictable. It's not about being a type A personality. It's a nervous system that learned somewhere along the line that surprise equals danger. It shapes you into a micromanager. You overplan, you build redundancies into your redundancies. You can't delegate because letting go feels like falling. Anxiety, constant low-grade dread that something will go wrong even when nothing currently is. And low adaptability. The world rewards people who can flex when conditions change. Control insecurity makes you the worst version of that. You freeze, you spiral, you blame whoever changed the plan. The hardest part to accept. The control was always an illusion. Life never actually agreed to be predictable. You just convinced yourself it would. 15. Identity insecurity. You change your style every 6 months. You pick up a new hobby and abandon it by next year. You constantly reinvent yourself, looking for the version of you that will finally feel right. None of them ever do. Identity insecurity is the underlying belief that there is no real you, so you keep auditioning new ones, hoping one sticks. It's the deepest insecurity on this list. The other ones, at least, have something concrete to attack. This one is built around a void. It shapes you into a trend chaser. New aesthetic, new diet, new worldview. Whatever the algorithm is promoting this month becomes who you are for a while. It shows up as borrowed opinions. You don't actually know what you think about most things. You know what the people you respect think, and you adopt that. Until you respect different people. Then it changes, and underneath everything. Inner emptiness, a quiet question that won't go away no matter how many reinventions you try. Who am I when nobody is watching? The work begins the day you stop trying to answer that out loud.